Thank you, Whitney. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webcast today on ultra-thin, ultra-secure, a future of 3270 client workstations. My name is Yvonne Wheaton, and I'll be your moderator today. I represent Software Diversified Services. Here's our agenda for the next 50 minutes or so. Patrick will start with an overview of Fraikin's PC replacement project, then review the Chrome, Google, and thin client browser-based 3270 terminal emulation technologies involved. Patrick Fournier from CISC has an extensive background in enterprise modernization services. He currently serves as a solution architect for the Virtel web suite, which is published by CISC. He has 40 years in data processing, including 10 years as a software product developer, 30 years as a project manager for large IBM mainframe application modernization projects. Following Patrick, John Bakioki will be providing a short demo on the Virtel Web Access 3270 emulator solution. John is from CISC and has been in the mainframe system software industry since 1977. His main focus is extending legacy applications by providing web access, modernization, and integration solutions that leverage these applications. As Whitney mentioned, we'll be holding a question and answer session at the end of the presentation, so if you have any questions during our presentation, please place them in your question box. After the presentation, you're always welcome to send us questions at SDS at any time to info@sdsusa.com or call us on 1-800-443-6183. Software Diversified Services is a global leader in mainframe software. It's been named to the Cybersecurity 500 list of the world's hottest and most innovative cybersecurity companies for the second quarter 2017. Founded in 1982, SDS supports over 25 products for security, encryption, data compression, and network monitoring. SDS has licensed over 1,000 enterprise clients worldwide, offering customers quality mainframe software, documentation, and award-winning technical support that combine for unsurpassed value. SDS is an IBM partner in development and an advanced member of the IBM Partner World. We are pleased to be presenting today's webcast with our partner CISC, with whom we have various product offerings in the Virtel Web Suite. You can find out more at www.sdsusa.com. So Patrick's going to do the first part of this presentation, but let me give you a little bit of introduction about Fraikin. In 2016, Fraikin, a European leader in commercial vehicle fleet services, decided to get out of the mainframe client workstation business altogether by replacing the 1,500 Windows PC workstations used to access their mainframe applications with minimalist Chrome-based devices from which desktop and mainframe applications are accessed in the cloud. Besides meeting its ambitious multimedia enablement and cost-saving objectives, this enterprise-wide virtual device infrastructure and desktop-as-a-service initiative resulted in the design of an ultra-thin and ultra-secure 3270 terminal emulation client workstation, one with drastically reduced and simplified support requirements, and with unparalleled mobility and flexibility. Patrick Fournier from CISC will now present an overview of Fraikin's PC replacement project in the ultra-thin, ultra-secure, a future of 3270 client workstations presentation. So I'll hand the presentation now over to Patrick. Patrick?
Thank you, Yvonne. One of our customers, Fraikin, just completed a rather unique 3270 client workstation simplification project. We think that it is a sign of things to come in the 3270 client workstation marketplace. This project may help you foresee how your own 3270 client workstations will evolve in the near future. With 7,000 customers, 58,000 vehicles, 180 agencies in 15 countries, 2,800 employees, and $742 million of revenues in 2016, Fraikin is a European leader in commercial vehicle management services. Fraikin is constantly trying to do more with less, and is no stranger to modern, ahead of their time workstation initiatives. In 2002, Fraikin was one of the first organizations to migrate their intranet and Microsoft desktop applications to a Citrix-based platform. At the time, Fraikin also started developing a GUI to modernize the user interface of some of their CICS applications while accessing the rest of their green screen applications through 30 to 70 terminal emulation applets installed on their Windows PC workstations. The driver for this initiative was to simplify the support and consequently reduce the costs of their workstations, and they met both objectives. The Citrix solution didn't provide audio-video support or direct internet access, but those limitations didn't matter at the time. Fast forward 13 years later in 2015, Fraikin decided to embrace the use of multimedia communication within its own organization as well as with its clients and suppliers. This included video conferencing. You are probably familiar with Cisco's WebEx, Microsoft's GoToMeeting, and maybe Google's Hangout. It also included YouTube videos. Both Fraikin and the manufacturers of commercial vehicles that Fraikin manages were by then switching to tutorial videos for the marketing of and the training to their products. This became the driving factor for the second phase of Fraikin's Workstation Simplification and Cost Savings initiative. But there were several additional drivers, namely the need for direct internet access to access Fraikin's application and data from anywhere, the need to renew Fraikin's aging pool of Windows PC workstations, and finally the need to further simplify the support of the workstations in order to further reduce their total cost of operations. Once again, Fraikin was trying to do more with less. In 2015 and 2016, Fraikin experimented with Chrome and Google products. From January to June 17, this year, Fraikin replaced their 1500 Windows PC workstation with ultra-thin Chrome devices. They switched from Microsoft desktop applications hosted in the Citrix cloud to Google desktop applications hosted in the Google Cloud. But they retained the Microsoft desktop applications for documents that haven't yet been converted to the Google desktop applications, such as complex accounting Excel spreadsheets. Fraikin replaced their Windows PCs with Chrome OS devices, Chromebox, Chromebases, and Chromebooks, and are in the process of replacing their iPhones with Android phones. So conference rooms are now equipped with Chrome boxes, which connect to the room's audio-video equipment so that the rooms can be used as video conference or training room. The office staff is now equipped with Chrome bases, which are all-in-one Chrome OS devices with integrated screen, speakers, webcam, and microphone. The mobile staff is now equipped with the Chromebooks, which are Chrome OS notebooks, and the sales staff is in the process of being equipped with Android smartphones to replace their iPhones. All devices connect to the internet via Wi-Fi and/or broadband. Note that those devices come by design with very limited storage because they are not intended for corporate data storage. All corporate data storage is cloud-based at Fraikin. Let's take a look at the software installed on Fraikin's Chrome devices. It is kept to a strict minimum. Only the Chrome operating system and browser are pre-installed. 3 software products are installed automatically the first time users connect their devices to the internet. They include Google's Remote Desktop, which is an applet used by the technical support team to access and support the users remotely. The Citrix receiver, which is another applet that connects users to their personal Citrix environment, in which they can find their Microsoft desktop application, Fraikin intranet applications, and the Rico cloud printing application. And finally, the Salesforce browser extension, which the sales team uses to access Fraikin's Salesforce CRM. Note that the Chrome device configurations are centrally managed and that both software and security updates are automated. One more item that is installed automatically the first time users connect their device to the internet is a toolbar used to access a number of cloud applications via the Chrome browser. So let's review the cloud application that can be accessed through the toolbar. They include the email manager Gmail, Google's alternative to Microsoft Outlook, the personal schedule and time manager Google Calendar, which replaces a similar functionality of Outlook, Google Drive, which allows users to store their data in a personal cloud and share it or not with others, the work processor docs, the spreadsheet generator sheets, and the presentation manager slides, which are Google's alternatives to Microsoft Words, Excel, and PowerPoint. The video conference manager Hangout, which is Google's alternative to GoToMeeting and WebEx. The language translator Translates, which Fraikin uses to work in the 15 different countries it serves. The mapping application Google Map, which again Fraikin needs to work with the 15 different countries it serves. The sticky notes application Google Keep, which Google calls the most underrated of its applications. The cloud printing application Google Cloud Print. And finally, YouTube, the only non-Google application that can be reached from this toolbar. Once again, note that those applications run in the cloud and are accessed through the Chrome browser. The toolbar that automatically installs on Fraikin's Chrome devices is only a collection of icons with links to access those applications. Now on to CICS and TSO applications. Between 2002 and 2014, Fraikin front-ended some of their CICS applications with a GT software GUI. Those CICS applications are now served as HTML pages rendered by the Chrome browser. In 2016, Fraikin had to deploy Virtel Web Access, a thin client browser-based 3270 terminal emulator, as a replacement for the TN3270 client applets that they had been using until then, because those applets didn't work on Chrome devices. Now, at this time, the 3270 screens of TSO and CICS applications that do not have a GUI front-end are also served as HTML pages, but with 3270 screen presentation layout and ergonomics. In effect, all mainframe applications are served through HTML web pages rendered by the Chrome browser. Mainframe applications are accessed via the web browser just as any other cloud applications. Let's take a look at the big picture. Fraikin replaced its Windows PC workstation with Chrome devices, including Chrome bases, Chromebooks, Chromeboxes, and Android smartphones. On those devices, the only installed software products are the operating system, the Chrome browser, Google's remote desktop applet, the Citrix receiver, and the Salesforce browser extension. All other applications are in the cloud, including YouTube and Salesforce, the user's personal Google Cloud, the user's personal Citrix Cloud, and the CICS and TSO applications, which for all intent and purpose are accessed in a mainframe cloud. As stated earlier, one of the drivers for the migration from Windows PC to Chrome devices was to simplify the support of the workstations. The simplification resulted not just from paring down the installed software, but also from the implementation of a centralized device management solution. The Chrome devices are managed centrally through the Google Administration Console. Software installation on those devices is strictly controlled. The Chrome OS and browser are pre-installed. The installation of whitelisted software components is automated and takes place when the device connects to the internet for the first time. This includes, as discussed earlier, remote desktop, Citrix receiver, Salesforce extension, and cloud applications toolbar. The installation of any other software components, including other web browsers than Chrome, is preempted. Software and security updates are automated with security updates deployed daily and software updates deployed whenever Google makes them available, which is approximately every 6 weeks. Now on to a few project implementation notes. Fraikin realized during this project that they were ahead of time. They had no experience with Google and Chrome products. They soon realized that there were no real Chrome user community in the European mainframe marketplace. So they were a bit on their own working with Google. They found it to be a bit of a learning curve to configure Chrome via the G Suite console. But once that was done, they found the deployment to workstations to be simple and fast. It takes some time to upload the software updates and whitelisted applications when the devices connect to the internet for the first time. But that is not different from what happens when the new Windows PC workstation connects for the first time. Google and Chrome software updates are published approximately every 6 weeks. They are quite easy to deploy to the devices because the deployment is automated. But the updates better take place because the software is rather sensitive to those updates and it oftentimes won't work without them. Implementing the remote support is a bit cumbersome because the tool to take control of remote devices doesn't pass through proxies. So Fraikin had to develop a custom network configuration to authorize a dedicated internet access for remote support. Finally, Fraikin had to reverse course with the deployment of Android for Works, which was intended to segregate business from personal data. It worked well during the proof of concept with Android 7, but it didn't work as well with the prior Android versions that were and are still used by many Fraikin sales staff. So maybe later. So far, Fraikin is quite satisfied with this migration because it has met all their objectives. They have modernized their communication with video conferencing and video tutorials. They have improved their mobility and flexibility by enabling their staff to access their applications and data from anywhere and directly, that is, without going through Citrix. They have further simplified their workstation support thanks to centralized device management and automated deployment of software and security updates. This support simplification should in turn further reduce their workstation TCO, although it's a bit early to tell, but Fraikin expects an 80% TCO reduction compared to pre-2002. As a side benefit, Fraikin has greatly improved security by strictly controlling the software products installed on the workstations, by implementing frequent software and security updates, by removing any corporate application or data from the workstations, by relying on end-to-end encrypted HTTPS connections, and by eliminating the 3270 terminal emulation applets from the 3270 client devices. and Fraikin has renewed their Workstations pool in the process. The future of 3270 client workstation as we see it is illustrated on this diagram. Ultra thin, ultra simple, ultra secure 3270 client workstations with pre-installed OS and web browser, a few, very few whitelisted applications, a toolbar to access the cloud applications and data, central device management, automated software and security updates, all applications and data in the cloud, including desktop applications and data, 3270 applications and data, other non-desktop and non-mainframe applications and data such as YouTube and Salesforce. This type of ultra-thin configuration is a natural outcome of the convergence of several industry trends. The BYOD trend, where application must be supported by a variety of devices whose only common feature is the fact that they are connected to the internet via a web browser that can render standard HTML JavaScript pages. The mobility trend, which is another variation of the BYOD trend. The desktop as a service trend, and products like Google G Suite for the cloud, the Citrix Cloud Services, Microsoft Office Online, and even to some regards Microsoft Office 365. The phasing out of browser plugins, including I think it was early 2016, the deprecation of the Java plugin that some GUI and TN3270 emulators rely upon, and the growing security and support concerns with the Java client applets used by most traditional TN3270 emulators. Now let's talk about Virtel Web Access, which Fraikin deployed as an alternative to the TN3270 client applets that they were previously using and which didn't work any longer with Chrome devices. With their current TN3270 emulator, Fraikin faced several challenges. It relied on Java client applets, which Fraikin, like everybody else, found cumbersome and costly to support. It was inconsistent with Fraikin's simplification objective to install nothing else than OS and browser on the Chrome devices, to access most, if not all, applications via the Chrome browser, and finally to administer and support all devices from a central administration and support console. More importantly, it turned out that the applet simply didn't work on Chrome devices. This was preventing Fraikin from moving forward with their Workstation Simplification project. So they searched for an alternative to their client-based TN3270 emulator, one with no client applet, preferably no middle-tier server, access to 3270 applications through the Chrome browser, from anywhere and from any Chrome device, and with centralized, preferably host-based administration and support. The only 3270 terminal emulator they found that matched those criteria was Virtel Web Access. Virtel Web Access is Virtel's base configuration. It functions as a thin client that is browser-based 3270 terminal emulator. It serves 3270 screens as standard HTML JavaScript pages with 3270 emulation ergonomics to thin client devices straight off the mainframe without middle-tier servers. It doesn't get any simpler and more centralized than that. Virtel is typically deployed as a modern alternative to TN3270 emulators such as PCOM, HOD, Extra, Roomba, Bluezone. Virtel relies on a thin client browser-based architecture, which means that the TN3270 applet that TN3270 emulators rely upon is replaced by the client's web browser, to which Virtel serves a standard HTML JavaScript web page. 3270 application screens, such as those of CICS, IMS, TSO, and other 3270 applications, are served by Virtel Web Access as HTML JavaScript web pages with 3270 emulation ergonomics. Those pages can be rendered by any web browser running on any web-enabled device. Consequently, Virtel Web Access works instantly with any web client available today or tomorrow, any version of Windows, any Apple product, any tablet or mobile device, and Chrome devices, of course. The thin client architecture of Virtel Web Access makes for a simple and instant deployment because there is nothing to install on clients or middle-tier servers. Users simply point their web browser to an installation-defined URL to reach the logon menu. And the thin client architecture of Virtel Web Access simplifies administration and support because there is nothing to administer or support outside the mainframe, no client app, no middle-tier server, and no Java component, and the administration and support are 100% host-based. Unlike traditional TN3270 emulators, Virtel Web Access doesn't use middle-tier servers or Java components. It eliminates the issues typically associated with middle-tier servers, namely additional hardware, software, and support costs, additional latency which can lead to slow response times, a potential for bottlenecks, load balancing, and scalability issues, additional complexity and fragility, additional components to troubleshoot when something goes wrong, and the usage of TN3270 connections which send unencrypted data over IP connections, hence requiring the use of a VPN, which of course comes with additional cost and support requirements. It also eliminates the issues typically associated with Java components, namely additional complexity and fragility caused by the sensitivity of the solution's components to Java levels, and Oracle's deprecation of the Java plugins for those products that rely on this plugin. The first page that Virtel Web Access serves to users that successfully underwent their logon authentication is an application selection menu. On that menu, only those applications that the user is authorized to access are listed. Applications that the user is not authorized to access are not listed. Applications that are started and available are identified with a green light. Applications that are not available are identified with a red light. The application selection menu, together with the multi-tab capability of web browsers, works as a simple session manager, to the point that some Virtel customers have dropped their session manager. The same application selection menu is served again to users after an application or transaction crash to prevent the users from roaming free inside the host as they would with TN3270 emulators. Here is what a 3270 terminal emulation page served by Virtel Web Access to a PC workstation looks like. It looks and works exactly like a green screen. The only clue that it is not a green screen is a tools bar at the top of the screen. Now, let's see step by step how Virtel works. 3270 applications such as CICS, IMS, and TSO have a screen-based user interface. Screens are served to users via VTAM SNA connections. Virtel Web Access, which runs as a started task on the mainframe, behaves as a regular VTAM terminal. But behind the VTAM relay are a protocol converter between host and web connection technologies and an IP server which manages the HTTP connection with web users. To generate a 3270 terminal emulation web page, Virtel Web Access inserts the 3270 data coming off VTAM into predefined HTML JavaScript templates. The Virtel scenario and template shown on this diagram guide the transformation process. They are what makes Virtel Web Access behave as a 3270 terminal emulator. The resulting web page can be rendered by any web browser running on any device. Note that with different and custom-defined scenario and templates, the same 3270 screens could be converted to a modern and user-friendly GUI with the usual assisted data entry widgets. This configuration of Virtel is referred to as Virtel Web Modernization. Fraikin could have developed their GUI with Virtel Web Modernization if they had known about it back in 2002. Thanks to its thin client browser-based architecture, Virtel is completely consistent with the latest 3270 client workstation trends, such as cloud, Virtel Device Infrastructure (VDI), Bring Your Own Device (BYOD), mobile device support, and desktop as a service (DAAS), to name a few. This is because with Virtel, there is nothing to install or support on the client devices, or generally speaking, outside the host. No applet, no plugin or browser extension, and no middle tier server. The 3270 screens are accessed via the web browser, to which they are served as standard HTML5 JavaScript web pages that look and behave as 3270 screens. The 3270 application screens can be accessed from anywhere and from any web-enabled device. The administration and support are centralized and host-based. Virtel turns 3270 applications into cloud applications. I hope you found this presentation of Fraikin's fairly unique migration from Windows PC to ultralight Chrome workstations enlightening. And at this time, John Bakioki will demonstrate Virtel Web Access.
Thank you, Patrick. My name is John Bakioki, and I am a Virtel Customer Support Specialist at CICS Communication. I'd like to give you a brief tour of Virtel Web Access so that you can see how it works and what it looks like. To start, I'd like to show you the Virtel application menu. You can reach this menu by issuing the URL that you see here. You could have this URL as a link to click on in a web page, but for the purpose of our demo, I am executing it directly from the toolbar. When you execute the request, you will be prompted to sign on using your mainframe user ID and password. And I will do so now. After you input your credentials and sign in, you will then see the application menu. Each line in the menu represents a started task that has been defined to Virtel, or what Virtel refers to in its documentation as an application. These tasks could be CICS, TSO, IMS, your session manager, or any other started task. The green light in front of an application indicates that the task is running and available. The red light indicates the task is not active and is unavailable. Let's click on TSO, which is a TSO instance on our mainframe. And what you are seeing is what Virtel presents to you, a full function 3270 representation in a browser setting. You will be able to utilize all of the function keys, arrows, tabbing, and so on so that you can use in a traditional 3270 browser. The actual name of the terminal that you are signed on with and its associated printer are shown in the lower right-hand corner of the page, along with the row and column number that represents the position of the screen cursor. In addition, a toolbar is provided for specific functions that will be described later on in this demo. Now I will enter my user ID and press enter. This is the standard TSO logon. I will now fill out my credentials again, but you can configure Virtel to pre-fill this page with the credentials that you have previously entered. And we'll show an example of that later on in this demo. We have now signed into TSO, and I'm paging through all the messages that my mainframe puts out at the start of a session. And eventually, we will reach the primary ISPF menu. I now will enter a 2 to go to TSO editing and press enter. Again, this is a standard 3270 screen represented as a web page. As you can see, I can tab through the fields just as if I were using a TN3270 interface. And I will be prevented from typing in protected areas. As you will see, I can get the inhibited indicator on the bottom, which I will have to get rid of by using the reset key. I will now press enter to get a list of my members in this PDS to edit. And I'm going to go down and select $arbload and press enter. And this is a standard edit session. I can page up and down in this document and use any of the standard PF key functions. And I can also use the keyboard on the toolbar to perform the same PF functions, PF8, and then PF7 to page back up again. Also on the toolbar, I can do a copy or cut of text and paste it elsewhere. So I'm going to do this, which is to highlight the 2 lines that I want to copy. And I'm going to click on the copy icon, which is here. And then I'm going to set my cursor here, and I'm going to paste. And we've just pasted that text onto this document. We can also do a send or receive of data from our PC in the same fashion that you would do in dollar file transfers with a 3270 emulation. We can capture and delete screen images to print out or save as a file. We can record and play back macros. And we can also, by clicking on the settings button, bring up a list of different things that you can change to affect how your screen looks and how your keys behave. For example, changing the enter key from the enter key on your keyboard to the new line key on the keyboard. Now we're going to enter =X on the command line. And press enter to exit TSO. We will now place a 2 here and blank this out and press enter. And now we will type in log off to exit from TSO. And we have now returned to the Virtel application menu. We'll now show what a standard CICS session will look like with Virtel. Let's click on the CICS link and once again provide our credentials to sign on to the mainframe. In this case, we've pre-configured Virtel to sign into our CICS region using the credentials that we previously entered so that you don't have to enter them twice. We will now type in transaction .u and press enter. And again, this is a standard 3270 session in a browser that behaves exactly as a TN3270 emulator would. And we can enter the data in the fields and press enter as directed. And now we can put this application through its paces by pressing enter to do a search. And we'll type in Red-Headed League, which is an old Sherlock Holmes story, and press enter. And press enter one more time to view our first result. And now just to show that the Virtel solution keeps track of where the cursor is, just as a TN3270 emulator would, we're going to place the cursor under the word Ezekiel, and we're going to hit the PF11 key, which just page to the right and put Ezekiel in column 1, which is what the application is designed to do. So again, Virtel Web Access allows you to do everything you can do with a TN3270 emulator without changing your applications. I will now press PF12 followed by PF3 to sign off of our application. And now I will sign out of CICS in the usual manner. And we're back at the Virtel application menu once again. This concludes the demo portion of the Virtel web application presentation. I will now turn control over to Yvonne Wheaton so that we can start the Q&A portion of the presentation.
Well, thank you, John, for that demo. It looks like we have a few questions. We're going to go ahead and start with we have some questions about Fraikin, so we'll start with that, and then we'll go into the Virtel, what looks like to me as Virtel questions. Besides the fact that the Chrome devices have limited storage capacity, are users prevented from downloading corporate data to their Chrome device, for example, for security purposes?
I guess this one is for me, Patrick. So this is, there is no such restriction. Users can download Fraikin corporate data onto their Chrome devices. But Fraikin prevents copying anything from the Chrome devices to USB keys. Although it is not a bulletproof security because Fraikin cannot prevent users from attaching local data to an email.
Okay, great. And Patrick, this will be for you as well. How does the cost of Chrome devices compare to the cost of similar PC workstations?
Well, actually, it's similar. Windows PC workstation costs around 500 euros, whereas a Chrome device with a touchscreen costs around 460 euros with touchscreen. Those prices are in France and Europe, where Fraikin is located. So price was not the issue with the selection of Chrome devices.
Okay, thanks. And we have one more Fraikin question. Patrick, I think this is for you too. Why did Fraikin decide to switch to Google Chrome products? Were there not similar solutions with Microsoft PC products, and was it a technical or a cost decision?
Neither technical or cost decision, actually. It was a political decision made years ago by the CIO who didn't like Microsoft. He considered Microsoft to be providing cloud solutions only reluctantly to retain their customers, not to genuinely push the cause of cloud solution. And he considered Google and Citrix to be genuine believers in cloud solutions and genuinely trying to push the cause of cloud solutions. But of course, that was his personal position. What Fraikin accomplished with Google and Chrome products could have been accomplished as well with today's Windows and PC products.
Okay, thanks, Patrick. I think we're going to move on to the Virtel questions now, so these will be directed to John. The first one is, how much time does it take to install and deploy Virtel Web Access?
Yeah, thank you, Yvonne. Typically, the initial installation takes less than 1 hour and is done by the customer. Now, the main challenge for the customer is to have the right authorization to complete some of the installation steps. So what we typically do is to schedule a 20-minute phone call before the installation to review the installation checklist with the systems programmer and to ensure that the systems programmer understands the installation steps and is authorized to complete them, or gets an authorized person to participate in the installation. Once that's done, it normally takes another hour or two to tailor the installation to the customer's specifications. Typically that's done via a webcast, during which our support team guides the customer step by step through the tailoring, which accelerates the tailoring, ensures that everything works to customer satisfaction by the end of that call, and also works as a training session for the systems programmer. After that, all you need to do is to send the users the URL they need to point their web browsers to in order to access Virtel's 3270 terminal emulation service.
Okay, great. And the next question is, can I access my session manager with Virtel?
You can tailor the installation so that the users access the session manager at logon, just like any other started task. But what we found was that most of the time the session manager was no longer needed because Virtel, being a browser-based solution, allowed the users to open several sessions concurrently by opening a new tab in their web browser. Most of the time, the session manager then can therefore simply be dropped.
Okay, the next question for you, John, is we customize our current session manager session list, we customize our current session manager session list per user via SAF calls. Is this ability present in Virtel Web Access?
And the answer to that is yes, and there's two sub-answers to that. If you retain your current session manager and simply point Virtel at it, treating it as a Virtel application, therefore entering your session manager via Virtel, all of your SAF management calls will still occur since the SAF calls will happen outside of the control of Virtel, and therefore everything will be as it currently is. If you use Virtel to replace your current session manager, it can be configured to serve customized session lists to users based on Virtel-initiated SAF calls.
Okay, I think we have time for a couple more questions. The next one is, for cut, paste, can Control-X and Control-V be used in addition to the icon cut-paste buttons? Also, can macros be recorded and played back? John?
The answer to both of those questions is yes. You can use the Control-X and Control-V buttons as well as Control-C for copy to do copy, cut, and paste in addition to the buttons that we provide. Also, you can record keystroke macros and play them back with Virtel.
Okay, great. And one last question here. Can specified LUs be used?
The answer to that is yes. You can assign specific LUs to a user based on a number of different Virtel rules, some of which are IP address, workstation name, user ID, or just any kind of character string that you can think of.
Okay, terrific. Looks like we're coming up on the hour, and before I hand the webcast back to Whitney, I want to thank Patrick Fournier and John Bakioki for presenting this webcast today and helping out with the Q&A. Also, thank you to Cher for hosting our webcast. We thank you all for joining us today and hope you found something new or thought-provoking to take away from the webcast. And remember, if you have any other questions and would like to talk with someone at SDS about Virtel Web Access and how it can help you, you can reach us at 1-800-443-6183 or info@sdsusa.com. I'll hand the presentation now back to Whitney for closing comments. Whitney?